Hi, my name is Amy.
And I'm Jonathan.
And this is Quiver, and we're going to go over the pros and cons of our Norwegian Bliss cruise, April 6th through the 13th. We are typically Disney cruisers. We're both platinum Disney cruisers, and this is only our second Norwegian cruise. That's the only other cruise line we've sailed so far. So we're just going to go over the pros and cons of what we noticed as we went along the cruise. You want to go ahead and start with one of your pros?
The buffet. The buffet had tons of options, and I especially enjoyed the Taste of India station. They had Indian food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day of the cruise, and I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah, the buffet was so big, and it had lots of seating. It was deceptively large because you'd walk around and there'd be seating on the side.
I got lost.
And then at the very back, they had it was a space by the bar where you could overlook the observation lounge, which had floor to ceiling windows for the 2 stories that included the buffet store. What is that, 17, floor 17 that the buffet was on? And actually 3 stories then, right? Because the observation lounge started on 15 and the buffet was on 17. So the windows were massive, however many stories it covered. So you could sit at the front there and still see where you were going, or if you were in port, you could check out the port. And that was really cool. And the food really was phenomenal. It was delicious. We definitely liked it better than any of the Disney cruise buffets, which is a bummer.
Yeah, so the Disney cruises, they seem to have like one-of-a-kind specialty items that I really enjoy, but they only seem to pop up like once a cruise, and then it's really just kind of the same options day after day. They do switch the themes. There'll be an Asian theme or an Italian theme or international theme, but it's a little bit lackluster, whereas this buffet had tons of options. They also did themes, and there was never any point where I walked along going, I'm really not feeling anything here today.
Yeah, we would prefer the buffet to the sit down restaurants on this cruise. One, because it was nice and fast. You could just walk in, look at what you wanted. There was plenty of options, and then sit down wherever you like. Because there was tons of, and it was kind of cool because there were a few times that we saw, and I know this happens on the Disney cruise as well, but the cast members from Jersey Boys were all there, and it was kind of cool to see, and some of the crew staff were there as well, and just kind of see and say hi and great job and all that kind of stuff while we were eating. So that was really cool. One of the cons, staying on the theme of food, the sit down restaurants they weren't lackluster. I mean, I suppose they were lackluster. They were, the cruise staff, the restaurant staff was definitely nowhere near as good as the Disney Cruise Line.
You definitely don't get that same individual attention that you get on the Disney Cruise Line, both with rotational dining or even if you're doing the drop-in lunch or breakfasts. It did seem like the staff was a little disengaged. You definitely got a few exceptions to that. There were some fantastic people that we had, but by and large, on a Disney cruise, the crew is very engaged with you, and they were not nearly as engaged on Norwegian.
Yeah, we had a few. Breakfast was horrible at the sit-down restaurants, so I would definitely not recommend going to Taste or Savor for breakfast. The service was so slow. They couldn't care less. They promised Jonathan cream, never brought cream to the table.
Yes.
We had to ask the table next to us, and they, were giving us things back and forth because the service was just really, really poor.
I kind of felt like a bother.
We were wasting their
time.
It
was an inconvenience, unfortunately.
And that kind of, I think, ties into another con that I had is the confusing tipping system on Norwegian Bliss. So it's not a blanket, each server, because they don't have one set server with you that follows you around like Disney does to each of the main dining restaurants. They you put your tip, all of your tips, I guess, from what I understand, goes into a pot and is distributed throughout everybody on the cruise. So there's not a separate one for your room steward. There's not a separate one. It all goes into a pot. So they're not really getting anything special. So what I was reading ahead of time was bring extra cash. So you're tipping everybody as you go, which we did, because they don't get enough, I think, which makes the service quality poor because they don't really care. They're not getting anything from you. And there were, like Jonathan said, a few that went above and beyond, and that was fantastic. But overall, unless you were eating at the specialty restaurants, the specialty dining, there wasn't anything to look forward to at dinner, and definitely not breakfast. So that was I maybe it's just something we need to get used to, and we're definitely not yet. Go ahead with another pro.
The casino. We don't take a lot of cruises that have casinos on them, primarily cruising with Disney. And then I was on a cruise decades ago that had a casino in Greece, a Greek cruise line. So this was really like I mean, you could essentially count it as the first time I really got to engage with a casino on a cruise ship. And I enjoyed that greatly.
Yeah, it was a fun burn a hole in your pocket, spend all that, anything extra that you had. It was really easy actually to charge it to your room. So that was kind of a pro and a con because you didn't have to have cash. You could have cash. Otherwise you could just tap your card and punch in all the information, and you could just charge that money to your room, and it certainly ate up quite a bit of my money.
And completely painless until it's time to disembark and you get your final folio.
Yeah, but it was fun. I mean, and I would definitely say that the casino seemed to, and I have no idea how it works, but it seemed to be paying out more towards the beginning of the cruise, and we saw everybody winning, and towards the end of the cruise not so much, but it was a fun time, and they let you play. There are some slots that it just feels like it eats your money right away. This wasn't the case. We were able to play for a good chunk of time, and we had a good time there.
Yeah, and there was a nice variety of slot machines.
Yeah.
There were table games as well, but we primarily played the slot machines and the sucker's bet of the coin pusher, just because I enjoy a nice coin pusher.
And they had slot tournaments, they had poker tournaments, they had lots of things going on in the casino. They were scratchers, they had lottery tickets.
Lottery tickets,
and there were all sorts of little things that you could do in the casino outside of just slot machines. So there were table games and all of the casino stewards, or I don't know if that's what they're called, but they were all very, very helpful and super kind, and we have no complaints about the casino. We had a great time.
Yeah, and there was on the Bliss specifically, there is a completely walled-in, glassed-in section for smoking, and by and large, the smoke did stay in there. We played there were a few of our favorite slots that were near the entrance to that, and some of the smoke did bleed out, but overall, it wasn't smoky out in the main casino area. A lot of casinos and from what I've seen, cruise casinos, it's the non-smoking section that is walled off and is a smaller selection of machines. But it was the opposite here, and that was really nice.
One of the nice things about the casino is that it is on what Norwegian does is all their main activities are on floors 6, 7, or 8. And that was really nice because you knew where you were going in the evening, or if you want to do any of the activities, you just go to floor 6, 7, or 8. You're not far from anything, just bump up and down a floor. Because it was so cold, everybody was inside. So there was always something happening on floors 6, 7, or 8. Mm-hmm. The con to that is there were only 2 elevator banks like the Wish has. So
a third elevator bank would have been nice. Definitely specific times, especially coming back from shore excursions. The bank of elevators would get pretty slammed pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, they only opened one gangway when you were leaving or going to port or coming back from port, so that backed up really bad, and the elevators were a nightmare. I don't understand why. There must have been a reason why they didn't do two gangways to kind of split that up, especially because they have the two elevator banks. But but yeah, that got congested, and it was once you got through there, you're fine. But it definitely encouraged us to take the stairs a lot because it wasn't worth waiting.
Yeah, and unlike the Disney ships, which are smaller, there's a lot more decks here. So I definitely found myself in more situations where I had to tough it out at the elevators because I'm willing to take the elevator or the stairs for 5 or 6 decks, but I couldn't take the elevators for 12 decks. Or the stairs. I couldn't take the stairs for 12 decks. That was just not going to happen.
Well, and we found so many people just going down to go back up again, just
Yeah.
because they couldn't get where they needed to be. So, all right, we'll get on the one that opens up that has any room at all. We were squished every single time we got into the elevator.
Yeah.
It was not fun.
Yeah, there were definitely times where it seemed that none of the elevators were going down. So people just said, forget it. I'll get in the up elevator, ride it all the way to the top, and take it all the way back down.
Yeah. But that 6, 7, and 8 area, even though it was congested, it had these cool screens. They had touch screens, which we've not seen on Disney before, where you could. It was kind of cool to navigate your way around and figure out where. Actually, maybe does the Wish have some touch screens? We only went on the Wish once, so that might have some cool.
Fortnight on the Wish, so I don't remember anymore.
Outside of the detective agency, we haven't really seen anything like this, which was really fun. You just go, if you're lost, you click on what you're looking for on the map, or go to dining and it'll show you what's to eat at these restaurants. The only problem was it didn't show what they had to eat at the complimentary dining. You had to go to the complimentary dining to look at their menu. It changed, so okay, fair enough. But like on the app or on the touchscreen, you could not view those menus. So you couldn't decide, oh, I really want to go to the Manhattan Room, which is the fancier complimentary restaurant, or I really want to go to Taste or Savor because they're chill, but they have better food than the local, which was the bar or the pub food. So I mean, it wasn't really a horrible thing to complain about, but it wasn't a huge inconvenience. It was just not super convenient. Like, they have the touchscreen there. If they know what the menu is, pop that in, and then you can just decide right
Take
there.
a look, yeah.
Or in the app, either way.
You could use it to make reservations at
Yes.
the premium restaurants.
Yeah.
But you didn't need to make reservations at the other restaurants.
That was actually really handy on the first day when we got on the ship and we were exploring and we played with that. Had we not already gotten our 2 complimentary specialty dining, because Norwegian always throws in all those fun perks that are free this, free that. So free 2 excursions, free 2 specialty dining packages, free drinks, free... What, 3rd and 4th guests stay free?
It was 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, so and a free Wi-Fi. So
150 minutes of Wi-Fi was part of it.
yeah,
as well.
those perks are awesome. Another pro to Norwegian. You still pay the taxes on those, so it's not completely free, but
and
it's
gratuities.
gratuities. Yeah, so it's there is some cost to it, but walking on board, had we not already booked our specialty dining, we could have just popped right up there and booked it to see what was available. And each night, if people had canceled, it would show what was open and available, and that was really handy. The specialty dining looked really good. We only tried 2. We tried Cagney's and we tried teppanyaki. And of the 2 of those, we would highly recommend...
Teppanyaki for the win.
Yeah, teppanyaki. We have Cattleman's Steakhouse here in California. We have some great, Texas Roadhouse. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been there. Those are much better than Cagney's. Or at least that's the way we found it. It was, I'm sure it's always hit or miss, but it was a miss for us. Super crammed in there. It was the only restaurant we had to wait for. even though we had reservation.
Was
So
your steak overcooked?
my steak was overcooked, and at a specialty dining restaurant, that shouldn't happen. At any steakhouse that claims to be a steakhouse, the steak should not be overcooked.
I mean, it happens. It happens
Yeah.
everywhere, and we chose not to send it back or
Right.
anything.
No.
We
Well,
just,
we had
yes.
already been waiting a long time, and yeah, I'm not super picky,
we,
so
we had been waiting a long time, and we had been brought the wrong food.
right. Oh, that's
and,
right.
And so we did send that back because
Yeah.
it wasn't the correct.
Yeah, they brought us
correct
somebody
orders.
else's order and then had to take it back and recook ours, and it was just unfortunate for them and us because they're not getting a positive review from us, even though we've heard Cagney's is wonderful. We did not experience
Yeah,
that.
I would definitely try it again.
Yeah.
I would not try it again before pretty much running through all the other options.
I would rather try every other specialty restaurant first, even the Ocean Blue, and I'm not a seafood eater, before
That's
going
saying
back to
something.
Cagney's and giving it a second try. Just because those other options looked phenomenal. Q's barbecue place.
Los Lobos
Oh
looked
yeah.
really good.
Oh yeah, and we heard good things. What about the Italian and there's a French one too. They have some great options. To use your perks on. We didn't pay any extra for any of the other ones, but we were sorely tempted for
Our
sure.
free at sea offer was with two nights of specialty dining, and we chose not to do anything more than those 2 nights. We were trying to see if we could do this cruise on the cheap.
And we did.
Yeah, we did.
Outside of the casino.
Yeah, very successful. Well, the casino. I did manage to break even in the casino. I think your mileage may vary, and I did not expect to by any stretch.
They had a massive spa. We are used to the teeny tiny little barely there spas on the Disney ships, and this spa, I really wanted to get a day pass for it. We wound up not, because again, we were trying to save money on this cruise. You can do, and this is one thing they don't really advertise very much, or at least they weren't on this cruise. I had watched some videos ahead of time saying that you can get a day pass when you're in a port of call for the spa. And when we went in and we did the tour of the spa, gorgeous. They had thermal spas, they had a snow room, they had aromatherapy, they had saunas, they had tons and tons of those heated lounge chairs, tons of them. And it was beautiful, windows all around. It was just stunning. But when we were talking to them, they did not talk about the day pass. And I said specifically, oh, can I book a day pass? And they're like, oh, no, you have to book the package. But then when we were in, I want to say Icy Straight Point, they did say, hey, if you want to do a day pass, and maybe they only do it when they haven't sold out on the spa. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember correctly. They said something about show up the day of and see if there are any available.
Right. So maybe that was it. But definitely check if you don't want to pay for the full spa package of your entire cruise. Check for a day pass, and it was much cheaper.
Yeah, it was much cheaper for a day pass. The length of cruise pass wasn't super expensive, but we just knew we weren't going to be using it.
Yeah.
We were in port. We had one sea day and then like sort of a half sea day between Icy Strait and Ketchikan, was it? Something.
And
so
on our way to Victoria.
Yeah, on the way to Victoria. So we could have really used it a couple of the days. So the full length of cruise pass was not going to be a good option for us.
Yeah, we had a balcony room, so we were able to have wonderful views just from the room. And as much as it would have been great after walking almost 7 miles a day, 8 miles a day out in Alaska, it would have been great to relax in the spa.
Yeah.
We were also pretty tuckered out. And that comes to another one of the pros, which I never thought I would say this, but I love to dress up on a Disney cruise. That's one of my things. We have, like, I'm wearing my Little Mermaid shirt and my little red sweater, and you're wearing your Disney. We love to dress up. But in Alaska, that cruise casual was really nice.
Yeah.
We didn't, and I know you don't have to on Disney. We like to on Disney, but this was an adventure cruise. And we had been wandering so much that staying in our street clothes or just going in something that wasn't not feeling like I had to go back to the room and get dressed up, and not that it feels like an obligation, but it's just a different vibe. It was a party vibe on the Norwegian
Yeah.
Bliss. They had a party, I think, every single night.
But not in a bad way party
No,
vibe. We're
no.
not frat party vibe. Just a,
A
a fun
fun,
party.
yeah, like
Everybody's having a great time
we're gonna
vibe.
have a different activity or dance party. They went through different decades on different nights.
Yeah.
And so that was a cool thing, even though we did not do it. We were super tired at the end of the day. There was one that I had wanted to check out. I had even brought like glow sticks for the glow party. And we didn't make it to that.
No.
But the really cool thing, one of the biggest pros that I liked about this was they filmed the events. So
Yeah.
I could be in the room the next day checking out some highlights of the fun things to see what I missed. And that was really cool. And Disney does that sometimes, but they don't always.
It's pretty rare for them to do it, and they will do it sometimes for the shows, but even then, it's not the cast that you would have seen when they play those
Right.
shows.
They're
They tape
pre-recorded.
a master recording of it and
Yeah.
then play it for every cruise that season.
Yeah,
So,
these were clips from the party of people we saw on the cruise that were fun, or of a seminar, or of, and they would just show, it wasn't the whole thing, so of course you should go to the whatever event if you want to go see it, but they had tons of different events happening, lots of games. The cons to those, the parties looked phenomenal. They looked like everybody was having a good time. But we are we're big bingo fans on Disney. And we went to one bingo session on Norwegian, and we'll never need to go to a bingo session on Norwegian again. So the crew staff, the con is, there's no comparison to Disney. There's no comparison to the fun, the excitement, the sheer level of entertainment, the skills that the entertainment staff have on, or it's crew staff, I think they call it, they're phenomenal on Disney, and there was no match. We were so bored in bingo. It was, I think the caller was bored in bingo. They were saying they were having people do weird things, and it was slow, and
that was an attempt to make it more exciting, and it didn't quite hit when they were,
it felt
the interaction
disingenuous,
didn't
where
hit.
you believe it on Disney that everybody, even the crew, is having a good time at bingo. Like, maybe they're not, but they're really good actors if they're not, because these guys could not pull it off. And that was, we would have spent a lot of money at bingo.
Yeah, I think the most fun bingo sessions are when you can tell that the cruise staff is also having fun with you, that they're laughing when they mess up, or when they're interacting with each other, and it just wasn't on that same level. I was prepared for it to be. I bought the big package that came with the T-shirt, and
we were disappointed
was
we
just
missed
kind of a
the
miss.
first bingo session. I think because it was we were doing something else. I don't remember, and we missed it. So we're like, oh man, we missed the first bingo. Went to the second bingo. We're like, we don't need to. And we were talking to some people as we were leaving the cruise, and they were like, that was the biggest ripoff. So they did a thing at the last bingo session where they raffled off a cruise, a future cruise, and they sold the tickets, bingo tickets, ahead of time, and with each one came a raffle ticket. So if you bought into the game, you got a raffle ticket, and different things throughout the cruise. I think you could get these raffle tickets, but then halfway through the game, I guess they sold more at a certain price. And so the man we were talking to just felt like it was, another big push for money. And sure it is. Of course they want their money, but he was not happy with the way with the way that went down. It didn't really bother us so much, but it was interesting to hear somebody else's take on that too. What next? Pro would be the room.
Yeah, it was a nice room. I really liked the setup. The TV wasn't in a weird spot, so that was nice. If we wanted to watch, what was on the daily.
Yeah.
They did a daily show, right? Did we watch a daily show?
Yeah, they did.
But
we didn't really watch it. It wasn't as fun as the Disney daily shows. Again, their cruise staff or hosts were not really engaging. So, but yeah, the TV was in a good spot. We had a nice sized balcony. And the bathroom, honestly, was, I think, one of the biggest highlights of the room.
Great shower. It was fantastic.
Really nice size shower that
with a door.
Yeah, had a door.
Curtain.
There was no curtain.
You're always going to win if you have a door instead of a curtain.
Yeah. So so that was really nice. We really liked the room. Were there any? Oh, the negative to the room was that there were really thin walls. The con to the room was that our neighbors watched TV or left the TV running all night long.
All night, too. The first couple nights. Eventually, I think they
3 or 4 in the morning, they were still having a great time.
Yeah. And I, the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 cruises I've been on, I've worn earplugs at night just to, in case there's like a deck party going on, or in some cases, some of the ships, they're creaky in the waves. And so it's easier for me to sleep. So even with the earplugs in, I was hearing their television, I was hearing their conversations. There was a lot going on. And, it's luck of the draw. We just happened to draw the cabin that happened to have those neighbors, and we could have ended up saying it was a perfect experience and it was pin drop quiet.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
It was not. And even, I don't know, it was for long days, and to be tired, you would think that we would just pass out and not even hear anything, but that we couldn't. That was probably one of the roughest parts of the cruise, was just having rough neighbors. Yeah. And maybe we should have complained, or maybe we should have said something. We didn't. We're not those people. We don't like to complain. Everybody's having their own good time. Whatever, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And we didn't choose our room either. So because it was a last minute deal, it was
like a guarantee.
Yeah. It was like guaranteed.
We got assigned it right away, so I think
we were one of the last people to book. So
it was
there weren't many rooms
just a couple of
left.
weeks of sailing.
Yeah. So it was what we were given, and we appreciated having that lovely room with a beautiful balcony and nice big shower. Yep. Room service is a charge, and maybe that's the case on most cruises outside of Disney. I wanted to try the cake of the day, or the chocolate cake. They had a chocolate cake on the menu. I love chocolate cakes, and it came with ice cream. And when I called, the lady's like, "Do you want to get 2?" I said, "No, I don't really." "Well, there's going to be an $11 charge, so if you want to." So I'm like, "Sure, throw in 2. He'll have some." He doesn't love the chocolate cake, but he loves the ice cream, and we'll have some. So I ordered 2. And there was the charge. I think it was an $11 charge, and then an expected tip as well on top of that charge. They want you to wait for 30 to 45 minutes for them to bring it down. Weird. Chocolate cake and ice cream should be pretty easy. I don't think it took that long. But then when we were finished, they do not allow you to just set the trays outside of the room. We did see some people doing that anyway. But they specifically said, you need to call us when you're done, and we'll come back and pick it up. The problem with that is you have to be in the room when they come to pick it up. So I called after we were finished. We had done some whale watching. We were just kind of hanging in the room. I should have told them we're done when they dropped it off, because they said you need to be there for the next 30 to 45 minutes before we come to pick it up. And it was a little frustrating because we're not used to that at all. And the $11, and
I think that's becoming more of the norm. The days of free room service are, they're dwindling, and it's nice that you can still get that on Disney. But I do see reports of more and more cruise lines changing to a charge for room service.
And I think the charge varied depending on what, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, whatever. I think that was the case. I didn't look too much at. Once that happened, I was soured to it. So I was like, I'm not gonna order any. We have free food on the cruise. We can go get delicious buffet anytime we want. So it was just a bummer, an unexpected thing. I should have researched better. But now, if you're watching this, now you know. So be prepared for a charge and expected tip, and then wait 35 to 45 minutes after you're finished in your room for them to take the trays away. I loved the bed. I outside of the noisy walls before we move on.
Yeah,
from the
it was a
room,
good bed.
it felt huge, and I don't
It
know.
was huge.
Yeah,
This was a much larger bed than we're
we're
used to.
not used to that. Granted, there were only the two of us in the room. We didn't have any kids or any third or fourth person.
Yeah.
That room would have felt real small if there was anybody else in
Yeah,
the room. But
we've
it
done
was
plenty
perfect.
of cruises where it's just the two of us,
Yeah.
and there's no question that we're used to a queen bed, and that was a king or a queen plus or a California queen
Yeah,
or something.
it was very
it was
spacious
big.
and nice
Yeah.
and comfortable. So no complaints about the room outside of the thin walls. One of the biggest cons was the port time in Alaska. We're going to talk about this one a lot. I know we're going to talk about it on one of our other videos, and probably we'll bring it up every single time.
I mean, yes, it was a big con for this particular itinerary, and I do see there are plenty of videos out there where people say, "Hey, if it's your first time in Alaska, don't make this mistake." And when you click through, basically their mistake is look at the itinerary, look at your time in port, look at the places you're going to be, and make sure that it's going to work for you. This was, if you're just looking for a taste of Alaska,
Yeah.
you can just get your taste with this itinerary.
Just a taste.
Just a
And
taste.
really prepare yourself for long lines for the buses, long lines to get on the bus. The bus is usually 15 to 25 minutes, depending on the port, to the port or to the actual city that you want to visit. Ketchikan, Sitka, all of them except Icy Straight Point was a bus ride. That's just the way Norwegian does it. Not all cruise lines do it. They have a special deal outside of the town. They bus you in. It's free to bus in. But and back, but the lines are huge, and be prepared to wait to get on that bus. We got lucky. Most of the times we got off the ship, we did not have to wait. But when we had to get back on the ship, which is limited time in your port, and it cuts in, especially Ketchikan, cuts into your port time.
Yeah.
We barely had any time in Ketchikan.
Each port, we definitely could have used 2 more hours.
Yeah.
2 more hours would have probably still felt a bit short, but
if they were
it would have
docking
helped.
in the town itself, if they could,
Yeah, that would have helped.
you know, that would have.
And they can't.
They could
in all of
have,
them.
well.
Yes, but they've got their own special port at Ward Cove there,
And Juneau they could have too, but they have their own. Norwegian does their own deal. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We knew that ahead of time, but it still hit us pretty hard. We felt cheated out of our time.
And
in
we do have
Alaska.
to give them a bit of a little bit of credit for this being literally the very first cruise of the season. So everybody was still being trained with new bus drivers, and everybody was, they were trying to become more efficient on the fly and streamlining things as they went. And I'm sure 2-3 cruises down the line, it was probably a much more efficient experience. I hope it's a much more efficient experience. It would be interesting to take one of the last cruises of the season. Well, no, because then you'd still be facing people who've gone home for the season. Mid-season.
When it's nice and busy.
Yeah.
That was a pro, actually, of the ports of call on this very first cruise of the season. There was only our ship in port.
Yeah, it was only us. If you saw other people wandering around, they were from your ship.
Yeah. And the cons were not everybody was back to work. Not everyone, not most of the shops were not open.
Yeah, they hadn't staffed up yet.
The hours were super limited, so they opened right as we needed to get back on the ship, kind of a deal. So yeah, it just the timing was off, but to see all that snow, that was a pro. That was cool.
Mm-hmm. And the shops that were open, everybody was super friendly.
Yeah.
Very glad to see us.
Yeah.
It was really nice. How friendly they were.
Yeah. So I don't know. It might change if we were to go again. Make sure we check on what the ports of call. Although we heard somebody say that they had changed one of them. Since we booked last minute, we don't know what the original itinerary was going to be. But we had heard somebody saying it was supposed to go to.
We were both supposed to go to Skagway and Glacier Bay. We got Icy Strait instead, and
Dawes Glacier. No, but was that always on there?
They did say that Skagway was one of them as well.
Yeah. So things changed before we were not
I
disappointed
mean,
because
yeah.
we weren't looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about that is that we weren't cranky when they swapped out ports that we do want to visit. So,
One of the things I have was that it was a big, beautiful, clean, newer. You could tell it was a newer ship. It was shiny. The art was beautiful. It was so spacious in the what we would call the atrium area. Did they call it atrium?
I think a few people refer to it as the atrium, but I think they called it like 678 space.
Yeah, in the central part of 678, I want to say it was floor 6. They had their future cruise sales. They had their
Yeah, 6. Guest
excursions
services.
and guest services, and Starbucks and a bar. And in this
And another
huge
bar.
space, and they had a big video screen where they played games. They played Deal or No Deal there, and it was enough space to where you're feeling like you're not like the line is never too long because there were so many people helping out at the desks outside of disembarkation day, but that will come to that, and they had yeah, just tons of room to where it didn't feel outside of Deal or No Deal where everybody wanted to be there. And the cool thing is it opened up to the other floor, the floor above, deck 7, where the local was. So if you sat on the bar at the local, you could look down and watch whatever activity was happening down in that atrium area. And that was really neat. I feel like it's tight on the Disney ships in those spaces, especially like Halloween time when they have the Halloween trees out, or if they're having some kind of I think the Wish is an exception to the rule.
Pack them in on the Disney ships,
Yeah.
in the ground floor of the atrium, but also each subsequent floor going up, each deck going up. Everybody's ringing it around the rails, also watching.
Yeah.
And this was a sold out cruise. Despite it being so early in the season, it was a full ship, and I never really felt packed in the way that a full Disney ship would.
The
would
only
make you feel.
thing that really did make it feel packed in, a few things actually, were they had some super popular activities, as Disney does, that if you did not get there an hour early, and the main one was the Beatles. They
yes,
have the
their
Beatles
Beatles
show,
tribute band,
and
yes.
they were the cutest little band from Argentina. And when they used their regular accents and talked to the crowd, it was adorable. And then they sang and were wonderful. But they have what's called the Cavern on the cruise, and that's where the Beatles perform.
The nightclub as well, the comedy club.
Oh,
Also,
and
you needed
the
to get
comedy
there
club.
early.
Those are small spaces. Those are not big spaces. So if you want to see it, and they do 2 shows like Disney does. So depending on what you're doing, dining or whatever, you have a second chance. They have an adult show and a kids show for the comedy. And then the Cavern Club has I think they just had a couple of different shows, but they sold out. So we got there a half an hour before, maybe 45 minutes before, and it was completely sold out.
Yeah.
So before the show started, one of the last days, because we really wanted to see the Beatles again. They were great. They were super entertaining,
a lot of fun.
very fun. So we hung out at one of my favorite, the biggest pro for me on this cruise. They had a mojito bar. So we just hung out down the road a little ways from the Cavern Club at the mojito bar and chilled. And then we're like, we're not missing out an hour. It's an hour before the show. Let's go down. And he was not the first in line an hour before the show. So if you want to see those shows, get there early. They do open the doors early as soon as it becomes a fire hazard, right?
Yeah, they'll station somebody out there to move people along and gently let them know that this is not your night to see this show.
Yeah, we were a little upset the first night that we missed it just because we got there 45 minutes. It was already full. We're like, wait, the doors don't even open until half an hour before. They're like, well, it was a fire hazard. We had to let people in. So be warned. If you want to see it, get there early. The shows all of the entertainment was good on the cruise. We saw Jersey Boys on our sea day, and it was nice to see a Broadway musical on the ship. The quality of Disney is very good on their shows. But we were hoping for 6, honestly. But we missed
so
it.
Close.
I love Jersey Boys, love the music to Jersey Boys. It was a good production, and it was a fun time. But that was what it was: Jersey Boys, the Beatles, the Comedians. Everybody took a little turn on the big stage. The theater was gorgeous. It was a nice big space. There was plenty of room. They did plenty of shows of Jersey Boys. So if you don't book it ahead of time, they had multiple shows, right? You might not get the day you want. We did. We got lucky, maybe because there were only two of us, but and they were sold out. I think almost all of them were sold out. So we heard a few people complaining about, oh, it was too long. It was too long of a show. So if you're just expecting a quick show, it's a full-length Broadway production. So, and I love that. We're theater people, so we like the full length. I like the 45-minute shows too, but this was a fun one to see. We skipped a big one. I'm saying a ton of pros. We really did enjoy this cruise.
There were way more pros than there were cons.
Yeah.
It was overall a fantastic experience. Very different than our first Norwegian experience, which was a good experience. It just, there was a lot of little things that maybe a few more cons on that one than pros, but there were way more pros than cons on this one.
Yeah. They had the coolest observation lounge. If you want to be indoors, have a snack, get a drink from the bar. This lounge was like forward on deck 15, so you're watching as you're going out. There were windows. It was massive. You would go all the way around the front of deck 15, floor to ceiling windows, all the way up. It was amazing, and they had snacks first thing in the morning. You could get early bird breakfast. You could go, and they changed them out throughout the day. They had yummy breads and cheeses and all scones. They had wonderful treats throughout the day. There were loungers, there were chairs, there were couches. And they also had a library on this cruise. Oh, yeah. And I think a bunch of cruises do. Disney doesn't. It's a bummer. Yeah. We're gamers, so it would have been fun if our whole family had been there where we could play board. They had board games to rent, books. I saw a lot of people who were grabbing a book from the library and then sitting in the lounge, or the books that they brought with them. And sitting in the lounge just reading and watching the whales go by, reading or watching the waves. We had one rocky day, and that's where everybody was the observation lounge, just trying to quell their stomachs with a little carbonated soda and hanging out on the couches in there. But it was a very, very, every single cruise I feel like needs an observation lounge like that. It was amazing.
Pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to be inside and watch where you're going. I'm like a cat. I like to sit in a glass window and soak in the sun and enjoy, just relax with a book. That's perfect.
I like to do the same thing, but at a slot machine.
I don't like being in the direct sun. It's really weird. I don't need to be on the beach, but if I'm in like a terrarium, I'm great. And this was perfect for that. We got lucky a few times and were able to lay out on the front loungers right at the nose, which was great. And there was usually a piano player in the afternoons, and that was lovely. I think they played games a few times and had some special events in there too. But I loved it. Loved the observation lounge. I think we mentioned this on the other video, but a con is Icy Straight Point. Icy Straight Point in Huna, don't do it. Don't go. Don't get off the ship. No, it's a good hike. The Eagle's Nest is wonderful on the hike around there. Nothing was open when we went. So they had a couple of restaurants. They had a couple of shops. The donut shop was cool, or delicious. A big line for that.
Lots of flavors.
Yeah. And
if you see people lining up at the donuts and you're trying to figure out what the big deal is there, they're hot, fresh,
mini
just
donuts.
made mini donuts, which are always delicious. Plus they had... more than 31 flavors. They had a lot of flavors, including a few that they had handwritten down at the bottom. So that was really nice.
Yeah. But yeah, outside of Icy Straight Point is a cool place to whale watch. In and out, watch for whales. There were tons of boats going out for whale excursions. It sounded like that was the best place to guarantee a whale sighting.
Yeah, I think that it is the only place where they do guarantee a whale sighting. I think the company that does the whale tours actually had some type of blurb that said that they're the only place where they're the only ones that will guarantee that you do see whales.
But I don't want to book it again. I don't want to be on Icy Straight Point. I'll go to the spa next time if we're not trying to save our money. But yeah, it was one of my least favorite parts of the cruise. And not just me.
Yeah.
Lots of people on the cruise thought that was a big waste of time. Part of it was because nothing was open. The zip line that they advertised not open.
It was too early in the season.
Yeah, the extra hike,
the
ropes course, none of that was open. You couldn't do anything except hike out to Huna, take a shuttle to Huna. Nothing in Huna. It was not a boring day. Beautiful day still. Saw some whales. Saw some other animals. Eagle's nest. That was cool.
Some people said they saw otters.
Yeah.
We definitely saw sea lions or seals. I think it was sea lions, but we weren't close enough to be able to see which it was. But there were definitely things to see. It's just not. There were just, at least when we were there wasn't a lot going on.
No. So. Different from Disney Con. You have to pay for sodas on this cruise. Unless you get, which most of them come with a drink package if you choose that. We did. We had a great time having free drinks on the cruise, including alcoholic beverages under a certain amount. That was nice. That mojito bar, we used it up. Not having access to soda, if we hadn't gotten the drink package, that would be a major con for both of us, I think. I don't drink a lot of soda, but I like to have the option, and making it a cost is, soda can't be expensive.
Soda's not expensive. The first Norwegian cruise that we were on Norwegian Spirit, I had the soda package that time. The alcohol package was way too expensive at that time, and not included in a perk. So I had it then. I tried to make sure that I used it. They have the soda package for the Bliss as well if you don't have the alcohol package. It's hard to pay that much for soda. Yeah. As much as I drink, I will get my money's worth out of it, but it's also not convenient to get. I know that, on Disney, the soda's free and you just have access to it right there. The soda fountain is free for anybody to use. I think on Royal, you get the mug with the RFID chip so that you can, you can still serve yourself, but you have the special mug, so that's convenient. On the Bliss, you had to go to a bar to get soda. And, there might have been a line of a few people in front of you. It just felt a little less convenient than I would like it to be to get a soda. Basically, because of I'm not complaining that much. It wasn't that difficult, but there was enough of an obstacle to getting a soda that by the time I got up there, I would just get an alcoholic beverage instead. It's like, if I'm going to go through that much trouble to get a soda, you might as well hit me up with a Miami Vice or a Pina Colada.
And all the bartenders were great. They were all really, really nice,
super
really
friendly.
fun. The problem with Norwegian is if you want to compliment someone at the end, and they do have all the little papers, and you should compliment people at the end. Their name tags are teeny. The names on the name tag specifically are tiny. So we were like desperately trying to remember and writing in our phone or writing it down when we got back to the room. Like, hey, when they walk back up here, we got to make sure that we see what their name is. What's their name? Ask their name, because you can't tell. So how can they get a compliment? How can they get a boost, a raise, whatever, if you don't know who they are? Unless, you can make friends with the ones. We bopped all over the place. So we didn't usually see the same bartenders all the time. But we had some great servers a couple of times that we really wanted to recommend, and luckily remember their name by the time that they handed out those little pieces of paper. So Norwegian, make their names bigger. We want to see who they are. That's, huge perk on Disney is you feel like family. You get to know everybody. You know who they are, their names, where they're from. And this one, you couldn't even tell what their name was. Such a bummer. But I think that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we covered most of the pros and cons from this trip.
Yeah, again, way more pros, even tons of stuff that we probably haven't even mentioned. Little things that, that just went, under the radar, but were fantastic.
Yeah. disembarkation cons, they don't tell you if you haven't used up all of your room credit. So it pops up and looks like a charge on your bill at the end. So when you're looking on your phone, saying when they say check over your room charges before, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm getting charged for room credit. That's really weird. I didn't, what is this from? And went down and talked to them, and it was time to go. I mentioned this. I'll keep mentioning this on the videos because it was really bothersome. I didn't know I hadn't used $30, even though we had spent a bunch here. There, you can't use it for tips. You can't use it for the casino. You can't use it for, I think, dealer, anything that seems like gambling.
Cruise Next.
But you could use it in the stores, and you could use it at Starbucks. Unfortunately, by the time I realized that, as it was disembarkation day, everything closed at 8:30 that morning. And they don't sell things in port, so the stores were closed, as they are on the Disney cruises. That's not unusual. But had I known the day before, had I figured it out, had I gone and talked, totally my fault for not checking. But I didn't know. I mean, it just disappeared. It didn't go. They just got to keep it. Yay for Norwegian, for them, for figuring out a cool system. But Starbucks was closed. I walked in and tried to get something. Couldn't use up the credit at all. We could have got coffees. We could have.
We could have got like 7 coffees.
Yeah, we could have got it because I had the $30. Could have got a cool
40.
Alaskan trinket or something from the gift shop the day before. Because they had all kinds of sales. They had watch sales.
Very reasonably priced
sales,
shirts.
Jewelry. Yeah, they had all kinds of fun stuff. And I didn't know I had that. We thought all the room credit had gone to him because typically the person that books the room is the person that gets the credit. For some reason, they split it between the two of us.
So this room credit was specifically a shareholder benefit because I own 100 shares or more in Norwegian Cruise Line. They gave me credit, and it specifically says that will go completely to the shareholder, which is me. Instead, they split it between the two of us, but that's fine. We normally will spend plenty, and it just happened that this time, most of the time when our card was being handed over, it was my card. Right. So I used my $50 up handily and above and beyond, and she just hadn't used that much, so there was still $37.50 left at the end of the cruise, and they applied it completely towards the folio at the beginning. And then because you didn't use it, they take it back. So, right. It looked like a charge.
Yeah, it looked like a charge. And I was just so confused. Why are you charging me for room credit that I never asked for? I didn't, it should have been all his, whatever. It's fine. But it's just something to know for the future.
Yeah, we won't make that mistake again.
Yeah. And Disembarkation, they did do a cool thing. Con was, it took forever. Again, only one gangway. And they wasn't really clear. They didn't do... If they did do the video, we missed it on all the things you need to do before disembarking. But
we didn't even. We thought, repeat on Disney.
We did our Disney go to the atrium where we think we are supposed to get off, forgetting that we didn't come on the atrium. We came in near the local bar, so we should have known we need to get off near the local bar, straight through the restaurant actually to get off, the pro of their system was they scanned you out on the ship. So they had a deal with, I don't know, whatever the government was, or Seattle or something, where once they scanned us out on the ship, we could get off. The line to get out to get to that scan. So we didn't need to go down to, and go through customs once we got off the ship. Because we did visit Vancouver. We just were done. They had scanned our photo. If anybody popped up where it was questionable, they did pull a family to the side when in front of us, and I'm sure they had to go down and do something else or talk to somebody. But that didn't happen. They just scanned our photo, scanned our passports, right? And we were off the ship, no problem. Our luggage was waiting there. That was nice and easy. Getting off the ship took a long time, though. So be prepared. Starbucks, everything's closed. Nobody's helping you anymore. You're done. But once 8:30 runs around, I don't blame them. I don't want to serve anybody anymore either. They know more people are coming on soon. But then we chose to get off late, and we're just chilling, chatting with people. The positive thing was that video. We just sat and watched that fun video recapping the entire trip. all those clips from the glow party, from the 60s party, from the 70s party, from
The match your mate.
yeah,
or
match. Oh
newlywed
my
game.
gosh, they did. It wasn't match your mate. They called it
I
something
forget
else,
what they
but
called it.
they got down and dirty. It was it's definitely more of an adult
It was some adult shows.
cruise. But they put all the snippets from all those fun things as like a goodbye video
Yeah.
of everything. So it was so much fun while we're waiting to disembark.
It was like
to
a cruise
watch.
review,
Yeah, the
review
highlights.
of what happened during the cruise, and that was really cool.
It was so cool. It's definitely a nice touch to have as you're leaving. It's like, oh my gosh. And it made us go, oh, I wish we would have watched that. I wish we would have gone to that, because next time now we know, don't miss this or don't miss that kind of a deal.
If you can stay up late enough.
Yeah, if you're not hiking all day long and then exhausted by the end of the day. Or in a food coma, which is a lot of the time the case. So that was nice. One of the pros I forgot to mention, check these babies out. Paper navigators, just like the good old days.
If you're a Disney cruiser, you're very jealous right now, because these are amazing.
And they're not called navigators. So I walked up to one of the desks and said, hey, can I get a daily navigator? And they
Freestyle
were like,
Daily.
What? This is called Freestyle Daily. And it does have all the good stuff. It has all the overview on the back. It's got all the main stuff that's happening through the day. It talks about all the fun things that you can do, buy into, all that kind of stuff.
It'll tell you what the special is going to be tonight at the buffet.
Yeah. The only thing, we didn't get one the first day. We had to go ask for it. That's when I called it the wrong thing.
Oh, right, yes.
But outside of that, we got one every day, and it was really nice to have. And I dropped my phone in the water, so having this... Having this was not on the cruise when we were out on an excursion, but it was nice because I don't like to use my phone on the cruise if I can avoid it. That's the fun part about cruising, is you can shut off. Now that COVID has happened, you can't really do that anymore. You have to use the apps. You have to do this and that. Having this meant I didn't need it. I could just be fun and fancy free, and it was great. So that's another pro towards Norwegian. And the cost. We didn't talk about that. It was way cheaper.
Yeah, remarkably.
We were kind of comparing some of the Disney cruises. A shorter Disney cruise was still twice the cost of this cruise.
Yeah, easily.
Like a 5-night compared to our 7-night. And definitely you don't get the perks of the family feel, the vibe, the fun of Disney. So that's definitely lacking, but for the price to go to Alaska, it fit right in the time. We were limited in time. I only had spring break for 1 week, and this cruise fit exactly in there. That's the reason, and the fact that it was super cheap. So we just went with it. That's it. Bye.